folks, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Natasha and I do book things here. Today's video is going to be my TBR for the Books in the Freezer readathon. I had to think there for a second because I have just been recently introduced to the Books in the Freezer podcast, which I'm mad at all of you for not telling me about this podcast. If you knew about this podcast and you did not tell me about this podcast, I'm a little mad. Jokes aside, I discovered the Books in the Freezer podcast the other day and I have bulk listened to nearly every single episode now. It is a podcast all about horror books and horror fiction, and it's something that I love, something that I want to get more into and read more, other than like, you know, Stephen King's and little things here and there that I'm aware of. And this so far has been such a fantastic resource for me to learn all about different horror books, different subgenres. Like a couple other episodes they've talked about carnival horror fiction, which is like a thing that I love. I love carnivals. They've done podcasts on LGBTQIA+ and like horror books, on women authors, on a lot of things, just various genres. And so if you're at all interested in the horror book like genre as a whole, or if you like thrillers and want some like recommendations for better horrors, do check out the podcast. It's hosted by two booktubers, so there's Stephanie, I believe, from That's What She Read, and then also The Shades of Orange, whose name I cannot find for the life of me. I've listened to all of these podcasts and I'm so garbage at names. Anyway, I will include a link to both of their channels and also to a link to the website. But basically, for their 1-year anniversary for a podcast, they decided to do a Books in the Freezer readathon, which, again, like the name of the podcast, the whole like the way that they rate books, like in the actual podcast they rate books about like temperature, like if it's truly scary they put it in the freezer. For those of you who don't know that reference, it's off of Joey from Friends, where he puts The Shining by Stephen King in the freezer because it's too scary. And so it's hilarious how they'll like rate books like, this is lukewarm, this is room temperature, this one goes in the fridge, this one goes in the freezer. Like, I started listening to this and went, 1, why did I not think of this podcast myself? 2, yes, it's been this just like beacon of light in my life the last like couple days. So when I found out that they were doing a readathon, I had to participate. Yeah, so it starts Monday, October 1st and goes until Sunday, October 14th, which is nice to have a 2-week-long readathon. Also, there are so many different readathons in October that I am planning to take a part in that having one that's 2 weeks with 5 challenges gives me a lot of room to read other things, which is nice. So there's 5 different challenges. First one is read a horror book by a female author. Second is to read a horror anthology or short story collection. And a third challenge is to read a horror book featuring or by a POC or LGBTQIA+ person. Number 4 is to read a horror book that has a movie adaptation, and read a book that we've recommended on the podcast. I have actually, I have like about 27 books pulled aside for October. Yeah, let's get into it. I'm not joking when I say I have 27 books pulled for the month of October that I want to read. It's kind of overwhelming, and I don't know how I let myself get that many, but anyway, I keep buying books like, I'll read this in October, I'll read this in October. Anywho, okay, so the first challenge is to read a book by a female author. I am starting the month strong. I am going to start with probably my most anticipated read ever that I just haven't got to yet because I am garbage. That is I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. This is her search for the Golden State Killer. This book basically helped to find the Golden State Killer, the guy who is, you know, currently arrested and all that nonsense for that crime. This is true crime. I want to read it and be scared out of my mind because home invasion scares the shit out of me. The absolute shit out of me. And I've heard of so many people who have read this book and had to like put it down, or read this book and went, oh my god, I need to have like my significant other just come and nuzzle me. But as this book progresses, the Golden State Killer preyed on couples. So I'm just prepared for this to be terrifying. For those of you who don't know, Michelle passed away before this book was published and before she got a chance to realize the impact of this book and what this meant for the actual case. I just can't wait to read this and talk more to people about this, because this is the case that I know, I don't want to say a lot about, I know a significant amount about. I'm sure as I go to read this that I will like be deep diving and finding out more and more and more and more and more. I need to read this. So this is my female author book. Yeah, this has to happen. Immediately. So I'm just like very excited about that book. Number 2 is to read a horror anthology or short story collection. One that's been on my list for like ever. That is Slasher Girls and Monster Boys by a whole myriad of authors. Jay Kristoff, Lee Bardugo, Marie Lu, other people that I've heard things about. Heard some stories in this are very scary. Some, maybe not for me, I don't know. I feel like horror and scary stuff is so personal that one person might be like, oh, this is the most boring story ever, and like another person's like, holy shit, that like absolutely like made me want to stick this book in the freezer. Yeah, so I just am excited to get to this. It's a chunky dunk. It's a little bit of a bigger one. And also I read anthologies slowly, and so I think there's, let me see how many are in here. There is conveniently 14 stories in this, and so if I get around to reading one a day for 2 weeks, done. Number 3 is to read a horror book featuring or by a POC or LGBTQIA+ author. Person, including that. So this is the one that I had trouble with, just because, I'll be honest, I didn't know a whole lot, and I don't know about a whole lot of, you know, LGBTQIA+ or person of color horror books, and that's upsetting to me. I do suggest listening to the podcast where they talk about queer horror books, which is awesome. I got a lot of ideas from that. Also didn't really want to bring in more books necessarily. I did end up purchasing one that was kind of like already on my list, but I don't want to go out and buy like a whole lot of books because I have 30 books that I want to read in the month of October. So I ended up deep diving into my collection and found an old gem that is just very much beaten up, and I think it looks great. That is The Vampire Lestat by Anne Rice, and this is an old rent-through library copy from my small town. It's yellow, it looks so perfect, all taped up and spooky, like, you know, used library copy. It smells like things. I read Interview with the Vampire like years ago, and by the way, Mandela Effect, it's Interview with a Vampire. The fuck? I read that in high school and was like, oh, I'm reading vampires. My mom would not like this. And so I remembered that I own this. I don't know when I got it, but really I've had it for some time. It has been suggested as an LGBTQ book, and so I had it and I just love it. I just love the aesthetic of this old beaten in copy, and so I'm just excited to kind of like dive back into this world. This is the second book in the series, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna read the first one. I'm going to spark note the shit out of that. I'm gonna read the wiki about it, and then I'm gonna go into the second one. But yeah, I just can't wait to like carry this around in October, and I actually have some moderately exciting things planned in October because I'm taking a 8-day work vacation, almost a 9-day vacation from work, where I am planning on doing some like really fun filming, so fingers crossed that actually happens. The more sort of like spooky aesthetic books, the better. There's a little bit of a teaser. Number 4 is to read a horror book that has a movie adaptation. Now, obviously these guys, I think this has the movie adaptation. Like, I know Interview with the Vampire definitely does, so I might just watch that just to immerse myself into those characters. A book that I am reading because I feel like I need to read this for this whole readathon. They both are big fans of Grady Hendrix, who wrote Horror Store, which is one of my like favorite little, like, it looks like an IKEA catalog kind of thing. Really fun horror book, but they actually interviewed Grady Hendrix and he sounds like a hilarious guy, and so I have one of his books. I asked for this for Christmas last year, got it, and I still haven't read it because, again, I am garbage. I am reading My Best Friend's Exorcism, which upon listening to them interview Grady, turns out that this is getting adapted. This is my favorite book cover that I own, I think. It looks like a VHS, and apparently there's like Easter eggs in all of his work, and the hardcover for this has like more content, the ebook has different content, blah. Anyway, I really badly want to read this. I think it's going to be like a lot of fun, like a more like funny thing. This cover is just, it's too much, and I have been saving this to read it in October, and I'm gonna fucking do it, and that's that. I'm pumped for October. I'm like, October is here. Just, can you tell like a pumpkin spice has entered my body in some form? I had pumpkin spice Cheerios earlier, and I'm like, fall is here. It is October now. It's not, it's like the 27th, but it's basically October. It's fine, it's fine. Alright, and then number 5 is to read a book that we've recommended on the podcast. They have definitely recommended this one, so that one. But the book that I don't have yet, because I frantically placed a book outlet order, is a book called Hex. And they talked about this in the podcast. I think it might have been like the second book that I heard them talk about, and I went, I need that fucking book. Great. Thanks, guys. And that book is basically, hold on, I gotta find the Goodreads just because I'm a mess. It says, whoever is born here is doomed to stay until death. Whoever settles never leaves. Welcome to Black Spring, the seemingly picturesque Hudson Valley town, haunted by the Black Rock Witch, a 17th century woman whose eyes and mouth are sewn shut. Muzzled, she walks the streets and enters your home at will. No. She stands next to your bed for nights on end. No. Everyone knows that her eyes may never be opened. The elders of Black Spring have virtually quarantined their town by using high-tech surveillance to prevent their curse from spreading. Frustrated with being kept in lockdown, the town's teenagers decide to break their strict regulations and go viral with the haunting, but in doing so send the town spiraling into the dark medieval practices of the past. So this is getting pitched to me as, this is set in like fairly modern day. Apparently they have like phones and internet and stuff, but there's a 17th century lady who's creepy as fuck, like walking around. This is my dream book. I heard this and went, again, why has no one told me about this book? I fucking need this in my life. Immediately. And so I bought it because I was like, I need this. So that is going to be my 5th book for the readathon. In the event that I finish all 5 of these books in a 14-day period, which I might, because like I said, I'm taking like 9 days off work in that period of time, which I'm so excited about. I might cry. I have so many other books to read. And then we also I will update you guys now, I'm doing Spookathon as well, and I'm doing Witchathon at the end of the month. So just a lot of stuff. So that is my TBR for Books in the Freezer-a-thon. And I highly encourage you guys to do this one as well. It's a lot of fun, and do listen to the podcast. Please go listen to the podcast. It's great if you like horror fiction. Even if you don't, if you want to hear some people talk about a very specific like niche genre, they do it so well. It's well researched, it's nice, they got nice voices and stuff, it's great. Anyway, I'm happy about it, okay? I just want to tell you guys about this for the month of October. Anyway. So that is everything for this video. I do hope you guys like my TBR. What books are you excited for me to read? Judging by my high energy, I'm pretty friggin' pumped to read all of them. I do hope you guys are doing good, and until my next video, I'll talk to all of you soon. Bye.